everyone thought was going to be a top tier rookie, that promise never quite paid off, and this is a proving ground moment for the young player from Japan.
It really didn't. We only saw him once in our monthly finals in round number 1, where he ended in 7th and 8th place. Now, he is a return World Finals competitor when you talk about what he did with FOB Gaming in 2020, but that's with a team. He's all by himself now as we hop into game number 1 here. Viiper top of your screen, Hajime at the bottom, Japan and France duking it out here in match number 5.
Interesting here, we've seen Log and Guards with the Miner out of Viiper, so Guards making a bit of a comeback this year. They got a little DPS boost, a lot more punch in that power.
Yeah, he's definitely going light and fast here. When you see the Guard, you see the Spear Goblins, Miner, Bats, and Log. Luckily, there's no Skeleton King in play, at least not for Hajime. We'll see if Viiper has a champion in this deck, but I don't believe so. Could maybe see the Golden Knight.
First minute, Ram Rider set up way in the back for Hajime. We'll see what he puts out up front here. And Mortar to pull from Viiper.
Happy about that.
Easy cleanup there for the Frenchman, who, of course, isn't just an absolute ladder god with finishes. You talk about personal best, 8.9K, one of those few players in that rarefied air, touching close to 9,000.
Yeah, Hajime here on the other side of it. When you talk about what happened to him in that round 1, he's looking for revenge against KK and Mo Light, who will be making his way on to day number 2, and Hajime hopes he can get a little bit of revenge by working through the Frenchman here. All 4 towers pretty healthy. As you see, Viiper has a very slight lead, 28-78 on the bottom of your screen, 29-53 at the top.
And a little leakage here from Viiper. Wants to make sure he has the exact right cards he wants against that Archer Queen, and just goes ahead, Fireball, Log, gets the chip damage, keeps that damage off his tower. No, a little short on the Log, doesn't get the chip value.
Yeah, that's a really interesting play there with the Fireball plus Log. You talk about a -1 trade there, although the Archer Queen ability does activate, so it's nice, clean, and even. But there was some reason why he didn't want to use any of his baity cards, and now with that Lightning coming in, the Ram Rider will go there and not get a dash on tower, but RG does connect.
Lead beginning to grow for Hajime, 21-14 on that right-hand tower as the Mega Knight plays some defense. We are getting very close to sudden death overtime, and so far, Hajime playing a very clean game. Viiper struggling a little bit.
Yeah, you see the bob of the head, though, from Viiper. I feel like he's set up in a position where he thinks he's got a good little bit of time in overtime here, a good chance in overtime here. Although those Lightnings coming in and getting value on the cannon cart every single time makes it really, really difficult to set up a positive defense.
Although Cannon Cart is doing that secondary job of playing defense against the Ram Rider, so getting some value, but you can't keep giving those lightnings onto that tower, and now we see Viiper make the choice to go opposite lane.
You see their guards have to come out on top of that Royal Ghost. If it did go to that cannon cart, it would have splashed on tower. Bandit comes on top of that mortar drop just a little bit early, and that's going to pretty much kill this offensive push here from Viiper.
Ram Rider to the right-hand side. Mortar should be pretty close to back in cycle. Might have to fireball this and log it as well, and there he goes instead. Holds off. Mega Knight gets a big connection, though, on that left-hand lane.
Right now, Viper's interactions, he's definitely playing out of sorts, Rich. He's a little uncomfortable. We see him overspend quite a bit. And then, again, that Mega Knight connection, it's not the end of the world. He knows it's probably going to, it's going to be a single tower game. That MK jump is okay to take, but still losing control as we move on. Only 80 seconds remain.
And you understand why he went Fireball Log, because of the mortar, and now mortar goes to a pull position, keeping it very high to avoid value on that right-hand tower, and successful here for a moment, but that Archer Queen is a real danger, and the Ghost as well.
Yeah, maybe we see some bats on top of this Archer Queen. No, he goes Fireball instead. No Log. There's the bats that come down, which is going to be good for that bar barrel. 1797 to 2206, and 1 minute remains.
Viper is playing a very, very smart game in this recovery, despite the early challenges. He is certainly not out here. One good mortar connection could change everything, and there we go. The mortar gets on tower on the left-hand side.
No defense there, though. Mortar should get one more shot, and it does. 1674. Ram Rider plus MK coming in here on the right-hand side. That MK is going to push the Ram Rider to the side, and that mortar is doing nothing for Viper.
Unbelievable. Lightning comes in. 27 seconds left.
That is beautifully sequenced and orchestrated there by Hajime. This is a Game 1 win for Japan, unless something crazy happens in the next 15 seconds, Rich.
Mortar not going to turn back to that left-hand tower, and this should be a GG. Well played. Connection. Lightning will finish things off. Hajime with a very, very nice game one. Viiper looking uncomfortable here in the opener.
And this is exactly why you know what? I should have just trusted my gut. So we'll see here in game number 2 what Viiper decides to come out with and how he can punish Hajime for taking game number 1.
Little pressure, Fire Spirit out of Hajime to open things up. Bar Barrel in reply and log right back. So looking a bit faster here in game number 2.
Faster indeed when you see that Earthquake cycled early on. So that means, Viiper, how do you want to build a big time push? You know, the only spells you're going to have to deal with are Log and that Earthquake, but that pesky Firecracker makes it so tough. We're going to see some Hog cycle here out of Hajime.
The interesting thing about this matchup, though, with the Golden Knight is the Firecracker, who's so darn annoying, is so much harder to protect when the Golden Knight is in the game.
Yeah.
The way you've protected the Firecracker for so long, putting the Valk right in front, you put that Valk at all too close, and now you get a ton of value and Firecracker off the board. So Viiper has to be very, very happy about that specific relationship.
And we did see Hajime miss that pull with the Valkyrie there just a second ago, dropping it a second too late. Golden Knight gets on top of exactly what you're talking about, Rich. So what does he do? He takes that Elixir advantage and does what you're supposed to when you have P.E.K.K.A. in your deck. Eric's told me this. He told me he learned it from Wero, who Hajime eliminated in the LCQ. If you're ever up an Elixir and down an HP, you cycle that P.E.K.K.A. in your weaker lane just to see what happens. And when you talk about that P.E.K.K.A. being in play, that's going to be really nice running into that Hog Rider.
And there you go, Hog into that same lane, and that's why he's comfortable cycling P.E.K.K.A. is because he has the Ram Rider to stun and slow that Hog down.
And you love it, right? So you're going to get an overspend on defense to deal with that P.E.K.K.A., and you're also going to bait out that Hog from your opponent just so they can see what you have as a response. Hajime's not new to the game. He knew that Viiper had something for it. He just wanted to see what it was. Most likely with the composition we see, it was going to be Ram Rider, and that's exactly what we got. So both these gentlemen know what they will be facing in this final minute of regulation.
Wow, and Viiper just going full spam city here at the bridge. Golden Knight wipes all that off the board. King Tower activation doesn't work for Hajime, and that's going to put him down in both elixir and damage in our final minute of regulation.
Saving grace there was a good log to take that Mother Witch out of play, or else that Bandit tanking would have gotten so much value, but still trouble, especially when we, again, talk about this P.E.K.K.A. Great placement there, great timing, no damage in from that Hog Rider.
You have to imagine that trying to find any way to break through is going to be difficult. You hope that in single elixir, you find yourself up in elixir just a little bit and punished there. But now here we are in double, almost a triple. He hasn't found that advantage, although does get a nice connection on the right-hand lane in our final 20.
Just really nice control there in single elixir, like we talked about, cycling that P.E.K.K.A. in the back and then having a response with that Ram Rider. A great matchup really here for Viiper, 1497 to 2098. And it's going to be an uphill battle here for Hajime to try to even this out. When you talk about the responses available for Viiper, you can even Bandit plus Electro Wizard if you do not have P.E.K.K.A. in cycle or Ram Rider, but I can't imagine Viiper will put himself in that position.
These EQs, you understand why they're coming out, but not doing maybe as much as Hajime would like. Obviously no building in the game, and he has to be careful. You're against a bridge spam variation. You throw 7 elixir that quickly, you can find yourself in a hole very, very fast.
Nice Bandit there to catch that Fire Spirit, and of course to keep this Firecracker off of the Golden Knight. No splash damage comes through, but that pesky Fire Spirit is going to get some good value here as we see a Ram Rider set up in the opposite lane. That is not going to pull. There it goes. And it's on tower. That Tesla too low, Rich, and that's going to do it.
GG, well played. Viiper ties things up. We're going to game number 3.
Yeah, he doesn't quite do it with Hog Rider, but he gives us a little bit of a rider there in the Ram Rider, which was the better decision. Great.
Saw a lot of things that could stop a balloon get used. I wonder if Hajime sees an opening here to go to the skies.
I was just hoping we were going to have a conversation that ended with Viiper running Hog XC NATO, but I don't think we are.
And Fire Spirit at the bridge, little pressure there. Knight to pick up from Hajime. And Viiper might be saying, anything you can do, I can do better.
Yeah, absolutely. You see the Valkyrie and the Fire Spirit come out. Those cards are in Hog Rider decks a lot, and there we go. And what I really do like is that Viiper is running Hog Rider at the World Finals. Again, best in the world, or one of the best in the world at it, and he's not running his go-to deck. He's running the popular Hog Cycle deck. You know, CMG Ian is a guy that's known out there for being one of the best or the best in the world with this deck. But running into Graveyard can be a little bit more difficult, as that Cannon Cart does connect, and that is already a massive blow early on.
Absolutely huge. EQ has to come out, and This deck on paper looks like it does well against Graveyard. You go, Valkyrie, well, that's some splash damage. Great against Graveyard. The Firecracker, she splashes too. But this one creates awkward Graveyard interactions, and one of the most important ones is taking that EQ off of your opponent's tower, and how often you have to use that on defense against the GYs.
Absolutely, and there you go. Now the mortar comes out, and Hajime goes, cool. So you can Earthquake this mortar, maybe your Hog will get to tower, I'll have to overspend defensively, but when my Graveyard comes down, you are gonna have to spend exponentially more. So we'll see, probably not gonna come down again here as he ticks to 10. I like that he's gonna reset with a Mother Witch here in the back.
Snowball, such an interesting wrinkle here, and obviously Viiper using Log earlier maybe made this deck seem less likely. I wonder if also that you partially picked this deck with the Snowball, fearing a potential Loon. Of course, that didn't pan out. And man,
wow.
You don't want to have an Inferno Tower necessarily against a Graveyard deck.
And there you see Cannon Cart connects on the left-hand side again. So Cannon Cart has connected in both lanes. Obviously, a little bit of assist from the Graveyard there on the right-hand side. 24-49 is the lowest tower here for Hajime to 1688. Viiper in trouble.
That was a very nice little fireball to recover there from Hajime, and take a look at that, forcing out extra elixir expenditure. And this is the thing to talk about for newer players. Not every move is about damage. Some moves are just about making your opponent play cards that they don't want to play at certain times, or spend elixir they didn't want to spend.
And look at that, a beautiful body block there with the Valkyrie to push that Hog Rider to tower. Earthquake comes in, a nice bit of damage, breathes a little bit of life back into Viper's run.
Viper sets the line high here, preventing the tank from coming in.
Cannon Cart again connects on that left-hand side. As the skeletons pile up on the right, Rich, Viper out of sorts, and you can see it on his face.
This is just a tough situation, you know. I really think with the Inferno Tower and Snowball, I think he was predicting Loon. I think he set a trap for Balloon, and Hajime just refused to spring it.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the responses, the Snowball, the Firecracker, the Inferno, and of course the delivery there. All great responses, but not the matchup he was looking for. Finally sets the line at the bridge to assist with this Graveyard just a bit, and the defensive Earthquake comes down. So again, a massive overspend, and damage still comes in. Fireball plus arrows, I think, might do it.
Absolute wow. And again, every time that EQ doesn't get down on offense, that's a problem for you, especially when you don't have a really clear path to tower. That mortar's going to be there all the time, and your EQ's not there to support and add damage. And at 280 right now, this feels like a matter of time.
Fireball is in, just got to cycle back around to those arrows, and Viper is going to be eliminated here by Hajime. There we go. Nail in the coffin. Viper, our number 4 seed, eliminated by number 29, Hajime out of Japan.
You know, you wanted those big time